Oh, my dear sweet Athabasca, I think we're going live. Have we gone live? I believe we're gone live, Chris. Okay, that's great. We're live. Oh, yeah, now you start. Come on, Corbin. Yeah, so the cat is settled. Hi, everybody. I hope everybody's having a good day. It's Thursday. Thursday? Thursday. And I've had a really busy day. I'm working on... I realized that the problem of working on multiple projects at once is that I always have this sort of transience feeling. This sort of... Yes? You want to come up? Really? Okay, so Corbin's here. I always have this feeling of transitioning from one thing to another thing to another thing. And it's hard to get it. The only thing that really in my day-to-day gives me a sense of resolve is finishing one pages. Everything else is like I've got pencils, inks, colors, right? Lettering, all those different stage processes along the way. But when you're talking about a project with body to it, like a project that's got X amount of pages, you want to have some degree of consistency amongst those. And so, I find I do things in batches, like I'm going to draw a bunch of pages, or I'm going to ink a bunch of things, or I'm going to just so on and so on and so on. And so it leaves you with this sort of sense of you don't have a resolution, right? You don't have that feeling, that resolve of, yeah, all right, things are where things are. So that's fine. The one page thing gives me a different vibe off of that, though. What are you doing? So it's not that he thinks I'm talking to him. It's just that he thinks he needs to be the center of everything. So, but that's Corbin, folks. All right. So I finally did a comic today. I finally did a one-page comic about doing one-page comics. And of course, I follow it up with, does anyone have any one-page comic suggestions? Do you think I said that phrase enough times in that sentence? Just come up. Come up. Ridiculous animal. Anyways, Corbin's here, folks. So, so today's the first time I think I've ever done a page that talks about the fact that I'm doing the one-page comics. I've done some promos talking about it, but I don't think I've ever done a page that includes the fact that it's not that that's my shtick. It's just that I do these, and I've been doing these regularly, right? Today is page number officially 119, technically 131, 132, 132. Yeah, 132, because of 13 pages extra in addition to the actual number. So 132. That's crazy. So at this point, we're gonna do some collecting of the next project. I think, get this out, which means expenditure, and without expectation of fulfillment, right? Like that's the challenge of expenditure, is that you sort of assume, oh, I've done this project, but then the reality comes in of, if you're not working for a specific publisher, and having done some things for publishers now that still have yet, some of these things have still yet to come out, it sort of just sits on you. Hello, handsome. And it sort of just sits on you and leaves you with a feeling of, I got to get this out, and an intensity to that. But at the same time comes the crashing economics of it all, and then the solicitation, promotion, all of those other things. So it stops the creative process and turns into just the business part of it, right? And that's not as fun, let's be honest. So we're at that point now with a couple of projects, and at the same time, I got a couple of other personal projects that I'm finishing. Leave it alone. And so lots in the air. But the one pages I keep kicking out. Yesterday's page that I started drawing, I tore it in half. I slipped as I was in the studio, and I tore it down the center. And so, as frustrating as that was, and that's the manila page that I'm talking about, I sat down and I redrew the entire image again in white on the manila paper, or the paper bag, whatever it's called, and incorporated that in today's page. Now, that, mind you, that's a full drawing. That is the same as the pencil crayon version that I also drew. Good, Chris, bad, Chris. So I'll come back to that. I will come back to that and finish this. Maybe even today. Who knows? But the good Chris, bad Chris page turned into what do you do when you're sidetracked in your creative process? What do you do when something happens, some frustrating calamity, or you spill your paint all over your paint water all over your painting, or you got to stop whatever you're doing because you've dropped your paint tray on your carpet. I don't know. And in that case, I'm thinking of shag carpeting. Get down. There we go. So, whatever the calamity is, one of your kids is colored on your picture while you stepped away for a second, or whatever it is, there's two ways you can handle it. And that's one, just sort of stay rooted in the disappointment and frustration of it. And two, you just got down. Sorry. And number two is down. Just get down. And the second part is you can get on the horse and get back to riding. Talk about frustrations and distractions, right? So I tend to be the one who just continues and gets the thing done, because, well, I mean, what else am I going to do, right? I've got stuff to get done, and I can't sit here and just stay and go, oh, it's all ruined now. And so that's thinking about that process and thinking about that actualization in the midst of making it makes a person evaluate. And of course, in the evaluation of that, why don't you use that as a facilitation and do another page? And so with all the sketches and stuff that I usually have in my sketchbooks and all these random ideas that I'm constantly kicking around, and where that all comes from is just random imagery, random doodling. And so I scanned a number of pages and talked about the process. And that doesn't mean I'm not going to finish the page that I started yesterday. It just means that today's output was talking about the act of storytelling and talking about the act of working through that frustration. So, but the thing that I have at the top of the screen, where you feel exposed to your creativity, by talking about that action, it's almost like exposing a part of yourself to people. That's the first one. And then the second part about feeling exposed to your creativity is talking contextually from my vantage point. It helps to root the idea for the viewer to understand who it is specifically is talking. And so a cartoon version of self is a way to do that. And so here I have now drawn a picture of myself. And unlike there are many people that have 60, 70 drawings of themselves on a website or in a book or whatever it is. I tend not to be that guy. So Corbin has no problem whatsoever being in the public eye. But so for me, drawing myself into a panel is almost like exposing, the wizard behind the curtain, don't look behind the curtains. I am the great and powerful Oz. So that's today. So today's page felt pretty good. Then there's a couple days ago we did boy band in space. Blah, blah, blah. Boy band in space. Yesterday it was the title fight. It's seniors with walkers versus seniors with wheelchairs. And then today's this storyteller. So, all right. I've also been working on finishing colors on Village Haunted to get that book out, and formatting Elmwood 12. So, boink, boink. Just because I've got nothing else in my docket right now. So, so that's why I'm open to things like collaborations and whatnot, because lots of things happening. lots of things happening at once. But what's not happening right now is taking on. I have not been taking on projects for others or with others, just because I haven't really announced that. Hey, I'm open to doing that again, or I've got availability to do that. That's literally the only reason why. And I think I'm going to have to do that again, because at the end of the day, you got to have something coming in, right? Something going out, something coming in. Yeah. So that's that. Malcolm says he's here, but he's not feeling well. I'm sorry to hear that, Malcolm. Hope chicken soup for the soul or chicken soup for the tum tum. I hope that things are going to turn around for you, sir. Yeah, that's rough. That's always rough when you're not feeling good. You're going to be quiet. Oh no, you appreciate you stopping and visiting and listening along. I promise not to break into any air supply duets with anybody if that's going to antagonize you today. I can't promise that. Anybody says, Chris, let's do an air supply duet. Their face is going up on that screen. And I'd have to look the lyrics up because I don't really know all the words to air supply, that's for sure. Corbin does, though. Anyways. Okay, so there's where we're at on getting things set into place for the stream today. So yeah, the one-page comic extravaganza has come out in the last year, and so now we're at the point of putting together one-page comic extravaganza volume 2 now. So that's always good fun. And at the same time, we've been recording shorts on our YouTube channel of me reading and doing the silly voices for some of our one-page comics. So that's that's enough to scare the kids. All right. Yeah. Oh, hang on, I gotta move this. This is me working on something else. Always working. Okay. All right. Oh, I'm missing a whole bunch of stuff, and I'm sorry for that. Hey, you get well quickly, Chicks Max. That's nice of you, Dee Dee. That's Dee Dee's special name for Malcolm. Circworks was hoping for a little Lost in Love. Scott, if you want to jump in as a guest right now, I'll do a duet of Lost in Love with you for a air supply. Careful what you ask for. Dee Dee says hi. Hi, Scott. Hi, Dee Dee. Yeah, I will put you on camera and we will do that duet as we speak. It's, it'll drive all the kids crazy. Everybody be like, stop. All right. So, bearing in mind that yesterday's Manila page kind of went by the whoop whoop, so I think I'll come at whatever I'm going to do for today's one-page comic in this little craft paper sketchbook that I've got, and then I'll just scan out the images and I'll put together a page. Dee Dee's on you, buddy. She's got you. She's got your number. All right. So, dun, 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 dun. All that's done. That's for something else. That's dun, 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 dun. Yep. Dishes. The day the dishes made me. And the sloths is on this. I believe this stuff is all done. And then we got a couple more in 500 years pages to do, but I do those on 11 by 17. And because I feel like I let people down by not doing the Manila page yesterday, I'm going to do that today. So I'll hold on to the 500 years from now. Scott says, I wish I could, but I have people working at the house right now. Scott, those are called backup singers. Those are backup singers, Scott. Come on over here, workers. And then you just pick up your guitar or your magic mic with your karaoke machine. And you want to sing a duet? You want to sing a duet with me? Corbin will join in with you. He'll sing a duet with Scott. Yeah. Dee says, if I had to draw Mr. Rogers on Christopher's show, you will have to sing. Anyways, you can invite your workers to come and do some harmonies. That's what I would do. But Corbin's got a horrible singing voice. Backup singers. They didn't know that when they took on the contract. That's terrible. All right. Okay, so we've got the Toucan Vines almond, three picks, and then there's another one here that's fun coming up. Haunted Dollhouse. Dee gave me Sushi Submarine and Lemur as well. Or no, it was Sushi Lemur 1500s because Dee keeps thinking you keep thinking I've done Submarine already, and I have I? I don't think I have. There's the principal secrets of how to draw anything right there, folks. Isn't that true, Corbin? All day of this cat tapping me on the shoulder. Yeah, I think that there's a good opportunity there, Scott, for you to make some friends by offering them iced tea and asking them if they think Air Supply rocks, dude. And what do you think, man? You want to duet some Air Supply on the karaoke? So, all right. So we've got dinosaurs versus Denny's bots, and more. So dinosaurs versus ABCD. So how about we do that? I don't know. That's an idea. We could do that. That all comes from my crazy weird fascination with the Denny's machine that brings your plates to the table. It was a robot. Oh my goodness, Jim Luan is feeling groovy. Jim could play accompanying guitar, Scott. You could do that. It would be a lot of fun. Scott's talking about duetting Air Supply, Jim, with his the workers that are doing something in his house for him right now. All right. Text message that's sweet, but autocorrects leading to a divorce or a murder. All right. Well, I've let this go on for too long. So the first three word that I got to get done is Toucan Vines almond. Let's just get caught up on that. So Dee says, what's the secret word today, Jim? Oh, with the secret word. What did I say? Toucan Vines and almonds. I'll write those down. Jim says you should hear me and Scott do more than words. This is here's a tragedy for you. I was in a band at the time that came out, and we did that on stage. Oh, yeah. All right. Secret. I was a sneaky candy sneak. Just got to turn my tunage down here. All right, well, let's get cracking. Secret word today is paparazzi. Well, let's put it down on the list. Paparazzi. Today's secret word is paparazzi. A friend from Australia, and the way that they pronounce everything, it's just fantastic. It's always this sort of fantastic turn on its side of how anybody in North America would say it. That's not so secret after seeing the news, Jim. What was on the news? What did I miss? This is what happens when I don't watch news, which I never do. Because I've been brought to understand that it's all fake news. fake news. What happened? Was there an expose? Was I exposed? All right. Let's just get down to it. Stop laying out some pencil. So yeah, I'm gonna put in a toucan with a color that I can't see at all. And if I can't see it, I can't expect that you can see it. Yeah, you work. All right. Yeah, what happened in the news today, folks? Harry and Meghan were chased for 2 hours. By who? Did they get them? I thought you said there was news. I'm sorry, but at a certain point, you stop believing in anything. Tonight, 7 p.m. Pacific. Hey, man, number 7. Yeah, I just did that same shameless self-promotion. What's on tonight's show, Jim? Do you want to try to do a duet with me of Air Supply while eating crackers? Is that 7 your time, or is that 7 my time? If it's 7 your time, that's 10 o'clock my time. On Corbin's time. Sorry, Corbin. By now, that is an awkward-looking face. Let's leave it up there for a second for all the folks at home that are all sitting on the edge of their seats watching Harold and Meg being chased by paparazzi, something. Pepperoni. Of course, we don't like being chased by pepperonis. What have I ever done to draw attention to myself? I'm so hard done by. Are we proclaiming shades of what happened to my mom? I hope not. It's like inviting a disaster, right? You know what? I don't like the opaqueness of just these thick dense marker marks. I want to build up, so I'm going to switch tracks a little bit here. So toucan, vines, and almonds are our 3 suggestions today. So and accompanying me in the studio, annoyingly today, is Corbin. Well, I hope nobody was hurt. Deacon Burns from Counterclockwise, my guest tonight. He voices Mink and Wilt Funkus. Excellent. 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 That's tonight at 7 p.m. Pacific. Yeah, I did it. Right now, tentatively, Gary Hodges will be joining me on the stream on Tuesday. Just letting people know that. Since we're shamelessly self-promoting, Jim. Yeah, Gary's going to come and hang out and stream and talk about our favorite crepes. Looking forward to that, actually. I'm really, really quite excited to talk to Gary about, hey, number 3's done. So when number 4, huh? No. He gets enough of that from some people that'll tune into his streams on Saturdays. He says there's at least one person that is a constant adjutant like that. And maybe friends, I don't know. But I just, yeah. it's tough enough to get a project done without somebody beside you going, hey, so, what's next? Huh? Just allow a person to enjoy the thing they've just done for a second. All right, so toucan, vines, and almonds. Jim says, check your local listings. For the news? No, I'm not going out of my way for that. Unless there was, yeah, no. You can't say something nice. Especially after all that trouble I just got into with insulting Will's bold wife. Nope. No, sorry, that was a different Chris. All right, so people have been sending me some pretty cool stuff they're working on. I really appreciate that. If you're comfortable with me showing that stuff as it's being sent, please let me know. And I got full willingness to say, hey, look what what they did, right? Look what they did here. Look at this. There's some pretty fun things. Rachel Fleming, who's joins us somewhat regularly on here, she has been doing a whole bunch of alphabetary pages, and it's really interesting to me. There's a fun thing that she does on these pages where she'll list 3 items, and they're actually associations. They're not actually just saying whatever the lettered word is. B. They're describing it, and you got to guess it. I kind of like that. It's for the letter B, by the way. I like that kind of thing. I think that's a lot of fun. Just sort of puts another layer on it. Makes you have to work for it. For my Jamin show. Oh, okay, yeah, I'll definitely do that. Check the local listings for your Jamin show. Hey man, you mean? Is that spell check or? Check your local listings. In the words of Bjork, oh, the kids would be there. Yeah. Also, no one has sent me any readings done doing their best Werner Herzog accent, and there's this tiny part of me that is disappointed. The 98% majority of me completely gets why you didn't, but small part, tiny little part. Really tiny, not that big. All right, so we're getting the toucan here. And we're going to put him contextually in his environment, right? 2 birds, 1 bird, 2 stones. See, I like the idea of having the toucan speaking through the whole page himself. So there I am sitting there minding my own business. I love silly things like that, which sort of, kind of fly into the face of expectation, right? Where, unless you're regularly exposed to anthropomorphism, I think that there's still people that read that and go, it's funny as toucan. That's this guy from the cereals, right? All right, we'll get to this in a second. So we got to put some vines and the like in here. Anybody else got anything going on right now? Is there anything else that people are engaged in that they want to put out there to others? Let me know. I'm down with your bad sound. So I'm looking forward to talking to Gary on the show. I'm practicing my interview questions. I can show you if you want. Hey, your name's Gary, right? It's awesome. You draw comics? Cool. Last time that Gary was on, we had a pretty cool conversation. Just the typical one, Gary. Gary's a good conversationalist. But if anybody that's tuning in to this today isn't familiar with his work, please go check out DBSM. Dinosaur versus Mars Bots is the long form title. I like the DBSM title, but really good books. Number 3 just finished and just being released. So get your chance, get a copy, enjoy some happiness, right? So I'm going to try to, even though I'm using ballpoint, I'm going to endeavor to blur out some background here, see what we can do to suggest depth. One way you can separate planes is by doing outlining around objects. That's one way that people do it. Another one is contrasting colors. You can look at your foreground as intermediate, your midground is as white, and your background is black. You can change those 3 up in any way that you want to. The more detailed your image is on one plane as opposed to how lacking in detail your imagery is on another, that's another way you can do it. There's so many different ways in which to separate your panels and tell me more. There's Gary Hodgesville. Is it Gary Hodges or Gary Rogers? I think you're thinking of Roy Rogers. I'm not familiar. Well, let me tell you a little story about Mr. Gary Rogers. So there's 5 of us who were trapped in an elevator, and I didn't know him at the time, but one of us in that elevator was the devil. So Gary was like, "Don't look at me, man," and I didn't anymore. And then when the elevator doors opened, we all went on our separate ways. True story. True story. That he kept saying, "Boost me up, just boost me up, and I'll climb through the ceiling." And that was. Which the only reason I bring that up is because that's what I kept suggesting to him, and he wouldn't do that for me either. So. It hurts. It just hurts when someone says, "I don't think so." Like I weigh too much for a person to just lift up and put into the elevator ceiling. Come on. What in the heck is he talking about today? I don't know. So one of the reasons we turn this daily stream on is to listen to what absolute lunacy is coming out of his yap hole. That's the biggest question I get, by the way. How do you draw pictures when you just don't stop talking nuts? I don't have an answer for that. Oh, tell me more about the area Hodge. I already got that. There's a song written about Gary Hodges. Who can make the sun shine? Anybody? Ah, get it. So just putting down some of these somewhat out of focus background details and overlapping values. The idea with the vines is that there are separations. So we've got your mid-tone information that's in the foreground here, and then the center area, the mid-ground area, has these contrasted out, these largely white, and I'll put the white down in a few moments, pieces of information. And the whole reason that I'm doing this sort of abstract information in the back is so that it pushes it behind the white area. That's the theory. That sounds like a good theory, Chris. Man, I'm glad to hear you say that. So it's just these sort of, and then if you can do what I'm doing now, which is try to have elements in whatever your composition is to overlap. And so that you can suggest in your mind, as you're reading and trying to interpret the page, different symbols that we recognize as talking monkeys, that words are words and pictures are pictures, but pictures can mean things like words mean things. So your brain fills in a lot of information on its own to try to make some kind of sense of what it is that you're seeing. And if I can make that easier by doing things like the separation of planes, then we're all happier. But the reason I'm doing this loose hashing in the background is specifically for those purposes, those reasons. Don't be afraid to put some relatively unnecessary complexity in your drawings, right? In order to give movement around the image for the reader's eye, the audience's eye, to travel around. So in a second, I'm going to beef it up by you bringing in that white pencil. See what we can kick up a notch. All right. A little bit more up here. Well, I still got that side to fill in, but I'm getting impatient. Hurry up, Red. Get on that page there so I can move on with my picture making there or something. Toucan, vines, almonds. Toucan, vines. Wee. All right. So I've got this here as well. So I'm roughly putting in the marks up into my fictitious border area. Sometimes when you draw those borders around a panel, I find that a lot of people, that when they do that, it's sort of, well, now there's the whole daunting, the ones that some of my friends anyways, not everybody, but some of my friends, that as soon as they put that border around the panel first and then have to fill in the panel, it actually works to somewhat uninspire them, because, now you're lockstepped into the specific volumes. Others I know, they're completely fine with that. They like the locality of where the marks are all going to go, but I tend to do everything by the sort of seat of my pants here. So I just try to guesstimate that the lines are all relatively on the same level as what I intend for the bottom of the panel to be, and move on. Because that stuff can all be fixed in post, in the edit part, right? That's the great thing about Photoshop, is that sort of allowance that it affords you to be liberated from some of the things that would probably previously hold you up. But in an instance like what I was expressing about earlier on that happened yesterday, where unforeseen calamity caused me to tear yesterday's drawing just as I got it right where I wanted it. Man, I believe was the sound that I made. Man. One more time. Okay, so I've got this yellow that I started doing a couple little belts with. It's a little bit of volume, a little bit of depth to the bird. Just before I get into putting down some white, the high contrast stuff, right? Just sort of, let's build this up just a little bit. There we go. So if anybody's got any questions, anybody's got any existential dilemmas, general complaints, take a number, and when I call it, it's your turn. Okay, so I hope it's picking up now, because I put these abstract shapes in the background. Hopefully now, as I hit it with some of these little belts of white here and there, it affords us the deeper understanding that there's light moving through the trees, ideally, right? And because it's such direct white in this predominantly red area, it should just jump right out. That's my fun idea. Fun never stops. Let me put some white on the bird. I'll hold this up in just a sec. So this is a Faber-Castell white brush pen that I'm using. It is not a very good white pen, but sometimes it's not about, the initial intention of the tool. It's meant to be used this way, or it's meant to serve in this capacity. That's all well and good if that works. But other times you can take a thing like this, which promises, the rose garden, I beg your pardon, and you can use it for something else. And what I'm doing here, I put down a line and then I sweep it off, and yet part of that line still stays in that section on the page. But because we've already got that red pencil there, you get that fun broken up. Eyes are killing me, I'm sorry. You get that fun broken up area. Still development lines. Chris Kalu, if anybody has the opportunity, please check out Chris's Instagram page. She has been doing some coloring of metallic objects, metallic statuary, and is a rather fine example of how light shape works. Like a really, really good example of that. And so if you get an opportunity to go take a look at that, please do. I can spell it. Chris Kilue. Umilauts above the E. On Instagram. All right, so I want to move to. Let me try it in pentagram first. Let me try this. Ooh, see? We don't need no stinking paint pens around here. How well is that turning out? Okay, it's coming through. Crunchy, crunch, crunch. I like the leaving of little spaces with in the manila between one plane and the next, rather than having to be too opaque with it, because I hope it separates it out. So. Make sure I'm not missing anything there. I apologize if anybody said anything and I haven't responded to it. You think it's bad here? Just imagine how excited I am to answer a phone. Usually I cry, run, hide under a large object. Large object. So I put fairly opaque marks down with the white pencil. But now we're going to get nuts. You want to get nuts? Okay. Oh, hold on. First. All right. Boom, 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 boom. So I've got a toothbrush that is no longer any good for your teeth. If it was, it ain't now. And I'm just putting down some fun marks around the bird, just to give it a little bit of something, a little bit of hey development, right? I'll give that a second. I got a friend who does this process so often, so much, that it's absolutely integral in their creation of any given image. That there's just a period where they stop and triskelate white paint or white ink or whatever it is on a surface. It's like first we draw, then we splatter, and it looks wonderful. I think it's a really wonderful finish that it gives them. Anybody have any of these? Anybody remember these? The old toothbrush that tucks inside the. Really not sanitary. Really not sanitary, but great for what we're using it for today. All right. So I think this dries fairly quick, he says, and it smudges the ink. Let's give this a second. Work in areas where we don't have as much intensity of marks. So I'm coming in here with this red paint pen and putting a couple of little belts of the red paint in, and just giving a little bit of something, a little bit of texture to this tree in the foreground. But I'm going to come in back here with this Faber-Castell chisel tip marker. Little emphasis points on this vine here. We'll do the same for our friend down over here. And I'm putting some little hits, little points along the way, little connection points for some of these leaves and stuff on the vines. It's like setting the rules on the way you're exploring the environment. All the little leaf buds have got these little points of attachment. Why? Because that's what I just decided. So is that tonight, Jim? It is tonight. I just want to check that again. Tonight, 7 o'clock. Jim Lewin will be doing an air supply duet. Oh, we hadn't intended to. Well, you're going to intend to now. So here I am putting some more hits, little emphasis bits and bobs through the image. And let me pull that up. All these little sort of things that we're doing to give a little more depth, a little more fun in the sun. Now, this is largely with, a few exceptions. It's just primarily that red, right? So we're going to come in here with some of these yellows and give a little bit of differentiation and value by putting some of these yellow hits in here. I haven't decided yet whether I'll do any midpoint color like any orange or anything or yellow red. Yellow red is when, or orange red, I'm sorry, is when it's additional red than just the standard orange color. It's a scientific term. Someone's going to tell me the proper name of it now, and I'll be like, that's what it's been called all these years. So I'm hitting these little leaves and these vines. Now, ideally, and then we'll get some on this piece of stick here as well. And then I'll come in a second and put some more little hits there. Very little on the one in the foreground, but something to root it into the language that we're using here. If anybody has any questions or thoughts or wants to say the secret word, every time you say the secret word, a young child gets its wings. something. So I'm taking this yellow paint marker, little hits on the leaves we have here. Just bump them a little bit. And again, all these little differentiations of intensity should make the image move around, right? Similar to some of the texture we have here, I've tried to do in the yellow. There you go. All right, so I'm going to come through with the, who are you? I'm Harold. Okay, Harold. I'm going to emphasize, a heavier set line around the external surface of the toucan. Which hopefully will pull it forward a little bit. Let's see how that looks. Yeah, it's coming. A little more artificial that, but at the same time, it tends to do the trick. Just get this line around here. I'll try to catch up with anything I might have missed in the chat. Tell me more about the Scary Hodges. Okay, we are still. Oh, there's Phil. Hello, Philip. He's been listening for a while. Dun, dun, dun. I had a dream last night. Here's something weird for everybody. I had a dream last night that there was a bit of a conflict between Canada and the United States, and we became American. Not because we lost the conflict, but because our Prime Minister, if you've never seen our Prime Minister on TV, you go, so that's how easily we became American in my dream. Hey, it's Rachel. How you doing, Rachel? I was telling people, Rachel, about your alphabet pages that you're doing now. They're very fun, folks. Are you posting those on your Instagram, Rachel? Hello, Circworks. Nice to meet you. James. Let's try something. What are you going to try now, fella? Wee. Try to get some of this paint off my fingers. All right, go over there and dry. Okay, where are we now? Alphabetery, not yet, but will once I finish them. Rachel is moving along on these really fast. I think you got about 7 or 8 of them done at this point, maybe more. Pretty cool. Pretty keen, Jubby. All right. So I'm just going to come back in one last time and do a couple little white hits here and there. Little emphasis points with old stringed up pencil jams in here. So that old waxy goodness up there on the surface. How's that coming through? Hey, nice. Good. I'm listening to 80s music today. So if I start going, which I think is every 80s dance. You'll see more of that when Scott Circle and I do at Air Supply later when it's the workers at his house go home. So just putting a little more beefy hits inside these areas here. Okay, let's see how we're doing. There we are. There's our first panel. Rachel says, I see a toucan, so my eyes just be fine. That's supposed to be a pony. Every Gen Xer should. Yeah, if you don't do this dance. Yeah. You didn't attend dances. You weren't told, separate. I don't know if they tell kids to separate now. I don't think they allow children to dance anymore. All right, what's next? What do we got next? We got toucan vines. Let me do another shot of the toucan. Let's pull in on a tighter face shot. Yeah? Just, the idea behind that, of course, is that you can have the dialogue coming through from, in this case, the bird's talking. So we can have the dialogue coming through the bird and out of the bird's face as they're doing it. But it still leaves some interest in variation of panels if you can have the bird still moving around. Of course, you can have it fly off and do whatever it's doing. But if you could shake that up, I think that sort of gives the viewer something to do, gives them something to do with their time, right? That's my theory. What am I missing? Jim sounds interesting, if only for his voiceover names. After Paul's disclosure, not sure what dancing goes on. Oh my. For those that are just joining, tonight at 7, Hey Man, number 7. It will be guested tonight by Deacon Burns. He does voices for Mink and Wilt Fungus, 2 of the main characters. All right, so we've got them chatting this way. I want to have a yapper closed shot, so. Got a little tiny picture here of how their beak meets together, but as per usual, I don't give myself a large enough image to see any of the details, so we'll make them up. Corbin's back. I just told him. Yeah. My camera. Yep. Okay. Sorry. I'll forget that sometimes. There was an interesting art caches last night. If anybody gets a chance to look back and check that out. I can't remember on whose stream it was on, but if anybody remembers, let me know. I'll put it up. Oh no, you don't have to. What am I yelling? It was Corey Care stream, but it was it's interesting. A young lady that does web comics on there chatting them again. She was on there recently. Web comics seems to be where all the kids go. I've checked out Webtoons. I was really doing a lot of research. I signed up for it, and I was really looking into how to get some of the stuff that I'm doing posted up on it. And the parameters that your images have to be in is so ridiculously tight and conformed that, which is why it leads all of those pages to look the same. That same sort of little tiny square cascading down the screen. And I don't know. It's a lot of reworking in order to fit some things onto that. And what my hope was is that to put down in the square format some of the things that I've already done. But it doesn't seem to be very amenable to that. So still not out. Might just do something specifically for it. You know, I got too much free time on my hands. What's this bird looking at? Huh? Who's he looking at? Does anybody have any big plans for the upcoming weekend? I'm going to be taking a week, 3 days off at the end of the month. It'll be my first 3 days off, really, and a couple of months now. And we're going to a conference in Toronto, and I'm going to be meeting up with a few people there while my wife is doing her conference stuff in the daytime. But if anybody's in the Toronto area, let me know. I'll point at you and go, ah. I don't know how much time I'll have for things, but kind of looks like an angry turkey with a big nose. So I'm doing a second panel on the same side. This is similar to how I did the bunny rabbits in my other sketchbook a week or so ago, a couple weeks ago. I don't know how long ago now. I'm missing stuff. What's our soundtrack today? 80s music. Yes, last song was just Gigantic, and now it's The Cure, something by The Cure. Lost and Lonely or something like that. And yeah, a getaway. We're gonna get away for a holiday. Working holiday. Our cats are gonna be beside themselves. I think we're gonna have to have one of the kids stay here while we're away because the cats will just lose their marbles otherwise. Old cats. And our felines aren't that young either. All right, so here's another shot of our Taki bird. Taki. There's got to be a bird out there in the world that says Taki. What was I doing? Oh, the white. Yeah, it's coming through. Okay. All right. Just do the same thing we did before. And to just sort of tie it together is to have, because we've done this sort of close-up shot, I can do this sort of taking some of the information that we had in the panel up above and putting that down below. And in that sort of like, you know, repeating the environment like that allows the viewer to pick up on the fact that this is the same setting. But we've adjusted them a little bit on the branch, and it doesn't have to be absolutely perfect. And it just sort of roots the scene for those that are looking at it, right? Oh, I missed one. See what I did there? There you go, Chris. Okay. Hey, everybody. It's Mr. Gary Hodges. You missed it, Gary. Scott Circlin is asking about doing a duet of Air Supply. Also, I let people know that you're going to come and hang out on Tuesday. I've been feeling a little anxious and vulnerable after releasing my latest book, and click on to see Feeling Exposed to Your Creativity. Christopher's spying on me through my webcam. I mean, no. Well, what I was referring to is specifically that when you put a piece out, you're sharing a bit of yourself, right? And the page that I did today, anybody hasn't seen it, I'll pop it up for a second here. The page that I put out today, which is Storyteller, I ripped the page that I was working on yesterday during the stream, or the drawing that I was doing. So I redid it. That's what's in the top corner there, and I'll show the full drawing later. But then I did this pencil crayon version of my Goofy Gob, and it talks about the act of storytelling and how it's such an integral part of, you know, human experience. But at the same time, there's when you do that, and when you include yourself in a piece, or when you share your creative expression with people, you kind of expose yourself. More specifically, especially when you're putting yourself in it, but you sort of you're sharing a little bit of your peccadillos. It's a tricky thing. Some people aren't comfortable with it at all, right? It's brave and an exciting adventure, Gary. There you go. But I don't think you have much to worry about there, fella, with the books that you're doing, because they're very good. The only one that would give you a hard time about anything is Squatch. Nobody listens to Squatch. I don't even know saying that Squatch person on your feed, and I just miss him. So time in life is limited. If we're doing this creative expression, that's the pill we gotta swallow. That's the tough little bit that we gotta get over. Is you're making all these things, and you don't want to. And does anybody remember the name of the reclusive artist in New York City that did this massive 1,500-page story of these young girls that were fighting this war in this fantasy land? And I think it's Verger. Rachel says, wait, your peccadillos are showing. And Gary says, my God, my peccadillos everywhere. I think it was Verger, Nathan Verger. But he was a person that was, had developmental issues and didn't understand a great deal of how the world worked. And in his simplicity, he's just stayed in his apartment and made this fantastical world in story, where in it he was an important supporting character to the fantasy heroines of heroines. They are actually, because as much as they're supposed to be princesses, generals, and soldiers, all of the above, of their fictitious army, he didn't understand, because he'd never been exposed to anything, and he was a sort of a non-sexual being. He didn't understand the difference between boys and girls. There we go. Henry Darger. It's Henry Darger. And so he would draw these protagonists with, even if we're going to get a bathe before we destroy the Southern Army, and they would be boys, because he just didn't understand. But Henry Darger, if Rachel says, in my case, if her peccadillos were everywhere, that would be embarrassing for the rest of the world. Rachel. If you get an opportunity to look at Henry Darger's life and times, it's something else. And he was a janitor. He toiled away in his elaborate thing his whole life, discovered when he died. The artist couple that owned the tenement building that he lived in, they knew he made art because they would supply him with some things, but they didn't realize what he was doing. They knew he was an artist, and he had talked about some medium and some processes and some aspects of story, but nobody saw especially the epic volume of how much that work was. He would take reams of wallpaper as well, like 7-8 foot long reams of wallpaper. And if you couldn't find a big enough piece of paper, he would actually glue together smaller sheets of paper. And he would do these humongous battles on them. But he worked as a janitor during the daytime. He had a best friend for a while until his best friend passed away. And then that was it. That was kind of his whole connection to the outside world, because he never spoke to anybody where he was working. And he was working at a mental hospital that he was a patient at one point, because he had a couple of nervous breakdowns. So it's an incredibly interesting story. It's a bit of a sad story, but it's an incredibly interesting story about one person's journey for exploration and the want for externalized communication, which is why we make things which you can never find fulfillment on. And he just kept producing things at home. quietly by himself. So it's Henry Darger. There's a couple of really interesting documentaries in the last few years about a couple of very interesting artists. There's another guy who was kind of a simple guy who got beat up by some people at a local tavern and gave him head trauma. And from that point forward, he just sort of collapsed into his own narrative that he was creating out of old G.I. Joes. I can't remember his name either. If somebody has that name, I would appreciate it. But these stories of that artistic expression, it's very challenging, very confronting. Especially in the sense of reciprocity. When are we doing what we're doing? And is not what we're doing to some extent with the expectation of communication externally with others? And what does that mean that we can't find that connection and communication with others? And we just produce this great deal of materials that it's really for what benefit? Because Henry spoke to nobody, and he lived a long life. A long, long life. He'd incorporate coloring books. He'd incorporate any materials that anybody kind of gave him. He would find things on the side of the street and take them home. He would buy celebrity magazines, and then he would do cutouts of certain characters because they were good examples of the personae. I'm sorry, not so much the personae. Well, it is. It's sort of an extension of self, but the different the 7 principal characters that were all meant to represent his connection to the larger world. And he would trace them, and he would reuse those tracings over and over again in his drawings. So he would trace them out from the magazine, and then he would cover the back in graphite, and he'd put it over a larger piece of paper, and he'd trace over it again. And that's how he had uniformity for a long time until he learned more about when he when he drew. And he would get really upset if he lost any of those images, because to him that was so integral to communication, to the execution of these projects. So much interesting stuff. Rachel says Joe Sarkin. Joe Sarkin was is it Mitford? Was it Mitford that Joe Sarkin did? Or maybe I'm thinking of a book series my wife's reading. But there's another interesting person with, finding expression through tragedy, which is kind of what these guys are doing. I don't think that's the right one. I think I use this. Maybe, what the heck did I use? All these different yellows I'm trying out. Joe Sarkin, his recreations of a World War II narratives with these Barbie dolls is incredibly elaborate. And then he would take photography and record these scenes and these events as he staged them all. And this, again, is another place where the locality of the artist in the work is as a supporting character to the leads. He also had a thing about wearing women's shoes. He felt really comfortable wearing women's shoes when he was at home. But again, this is all part of the fractured psyche, right? Is that as he's trying to redefine himself after all the things that have happened to him. I think it was a robbery. They were robbing the bar he worked at, and he got hurt. Something like that. Trying to think about some of the processes that I've used on I came through with a white. Came through with I see what I did now. Okay. But if you get an opportunity to watch some of these documentaries, like I really like to watch documentaries about outsider art because there's something pure about this. In the contemporary art world, I'm far more interested in seeing outsider art. I'm far more interested in seeing people's intentional need to make in order to express themselves, far more than I am to see this postmodernist claptrap that most galleries have exhibiting. Now, if it's classic works, I'll tend to go to galleries, see those, but I really don't care about deconstructionism. That ship sailed in the 60s. Everybody else that's still doing it today is just kind of missing some of the previous lessons that we've already had. Now they're trying to do it with whatever else, and they're trying to make these grand statements about things, and unfortunately, it doesn't hold my attention. For me, anyways. I'm not saying it. I'm speaking for everybody else. Okay, white pencil, I believe it came through with. Where did I put it? I think that's why the yellow didn't jump, is because I hadn't put that white down first. Confused myself. Not hard to do. There's some places in Toronto I'm excited to go and check out. Big, a couple of galleries, art supply stores that might have some materials that I can't get access to here. Right? But also just taking in the city, because London, while it is a city, and is a ridiculously growing city that has absolute upheaval for our streets and our downtown drug addicted population, and Toronto has huge buildings and is more resembling of a major city, and I'm kind of keen to look at a lot of those big things. The Sears. What is the Sears, Rachel? Where are we at? 1:30. I'll finish this guy off. The Sears Art Supply. Yeah? All right, I'll write that down. The Sears Art Supply. Okay. Is that anywhere relatively close to downtown? It's popping. It really pops out much better on the camera than it does in person. It really it picks up all the details on that camera, so I'm happy about that. And then I came in with this guy for the big little hits. Yeah, I'm gonna check out the Sears. The Sears. Can you tell me how I get to the Sears? All right, let's do that emphasis point on the. Oh no, I didn't use this. I used. That's the challenge with mixed media. You got to remember you use, what tool you use on what effect. That's why it's kind of important to either make notes or to keep it all in front of you and just work through the totality of a thing and as close you can as a single sitting, so that you don't lose some of what you're doing, or even worse, undo it. $130 Spadina. I can get there on the Spadina bus. The Spadina bus. The Spadina bus. If it still exists. See how that looks in the, yeah, it pops there. That's good. Pencil. All right. Yeah. There's another in Oakville on the way back to London. Oh, fancy. I'm taking the train, though. That's the challenge of, I'm getting to and from Toronto by train. I don't want to drive. I mean, I can drive, but I just don't want to. I want to have some fun and take a train ride. Clearly, I need to get out of the house more. We're going to take a train ride. All right. Well, we got the first part of this page together. So the bird is here in the forest surrounded by vines. So we've got two of the three. We've got the toucan. We've got the vines. What I have to incorporate now into this 3-page, or this 3-word prompt, these 3 words suggestions for this page is almonds. So that'll be fun. Maybe I'll incorporate a bag of chocolate almonds, turning it into a television commercial. I do too many TV commercials. Anyway, here's the finished panels so far. Pretty happy with how they're coming along. And yeah, I hope today's stream wasn't too dull of my rambling. But I will be back tomorrow for Friday. Like I said, okay, so Jim's got his thing tonight. Gary, I'm sure will be doing something Saturday, Sunday morning. And then Tuesday, Gary will be joining me next week on the stream here. And we're going to talk about his new book and, high-fiving people in shopping malls. I don't know. All right. Oh, thank you, Rachel. Rachel says, fabulous. Fabulous. So I say that word. Fab. Anyways, yeah, so I'm going to take off for now, but thanks everybody for coming and hanging out, and I hope you keep on producing, and I'll be back tomorrow too. Take care for now. Thanks again. Bye.